Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I am your host, and today we are staring directly into the face of a shift that is, well, it's being compared to the Industrial Revolution or the dawn of the Internet.
Right, just a small, casual topic for us today, nothing major. I'm your expert guide for this one, and I'm excited to get into it.
Exactly. Glad to have you here. We are talking about the year 2025 and the birth of what is being called the frontier firm.
Yeah.
And we've got a massive stack of research today to go through.
Oh, massive is an understatement.
Right. We are pulling primarily from Microsoft's 2025 Work Trend Index Annual Report, which, by the way, is just an absolute behemoth of a document.
Yeah, they surveyed, what, 31,000 workers?
31,000 workers across 31 countries,
Okay.
and they analyzed literally trillions of productivity signals.
It's a huge data set. It really gives us the what and the how of this new corporate structure. It's essentially the blueprint for how the biggest companies on Earth are trying to rewire themselves right now.
But, and I think this is really important to state up front for you listening, we aren't just drinking the corporate Kool-Aid here. We are pairing that Microsoft report with a really sharp, very critical analysis by Alexander Titus.
Titled, The Org Chart Dies Last.
Yes, the org chart dies last.
Yeah.
And he looks at the exact same data, all those trillions of signals, but comes to a very different and honestly slightly unsettling conclusion about risk and responsibility.
It is a fascinating pairing because on one side, you have Microsoft sketching out this productivity utopia, right? Where AI solves our burnout and makes us all 10 times more effective.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, Titus is warning us that we might be building this high-speed engine entirely without brakes.
So the mission for this deep dive is to understand this fundamental restructuring of the workplace, this transition from the traditional org chart, which we all know and probably loathe,
Definitely low.
to something they're calling the work chart.
Yeah.
And to figure out if there is a dangerous gap between how fast we can build these systems and how well we can actually govern them.
Let's start with the problem itself, because I think everyone listening to this will feel this in their bones. Microsoft calls it the capacity gap.
I felt this one personally, I have to say. The data points here are wild. 53% of leaders are out there screaming that productivity needs to increase. They need growth, they need speed.
But at the same exact time, 80% of the global workforce says, I am maxed out, I have no more time, and I have absolutely no more energy to give.
It's a total deadlock. The math just doesn't work out. You can't squeeze more juice out of a dried-up lemon.
Right, and the telemetry data backs this up. Those actual digital signals from how people work. The average employee right now is interrupted every 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
That is barely enough time to read a paragraph, let alone write one.
Exactly. That adds up to about 275 interruptions a day. It's the emails, the pings, the meetings, the Slack notifications.
It's constant noise.
The report explicitly says work feels chaotic and fragmented. And honestly, 275 interruptions is not a workflow. It's just a series of distractions held together by panic.
Which explains why we all leave the office feeling exhausted, but wondering if we actually accomplished a single thing.
Right. So the system is breaking. We cannot work harder. And Microsoft's solution to this deadlock is this new concept they call intelligence on tap.
Intelligence on tap.
Yeah.
Which sounds kind of like a utility, like electricity or water.
That is exactly what they are going for. This is the core economic shift we need to wrap our heads around here. Historically, intelligence, human reasoning, planning, creating.
Which is a scarce resource.
Yes, completely limited by biology. You could only hire so many smart people, and those people need to sleep, they need to eat, they need to see their families.
And they are expensive.
Highly expensive. But Microsoft is arguing that intelligence is shifting. It's becoming a durable good. It's becoming a utility.
Like turning on the faucet.
Right, or flipping a switch. Suddenly, reasoning power is abundant, it's affordable, and you can buy it on demand.
That is a wild reframe, just commoditized thought.
Precisely. And the thing is, this isn't theoretical. Companies are already doing it at scale. 82% of leaders say they are rethinking their entire strategy this year because of this.
Wow.
And 24% have already deployed AI organization-wide. Microsoft identifies this group as the frontier firms.
And apparently it's working for them. The data shows these frontier firms are thriving. 71% of them are thriving compared to the global average of just 39%.
They are leaving the competition in the dust.
So they really are. But let's unpack what these firms actually look like in practice. Because the report outlines 3 distinct phases of this AI evolution. And I think this is crucial for understanding where we actually are on the timeline.
Yeah, think of it as a maturity curve. Phase one is AI as assistant. This is where most people are right now. You use a chatbot to summarize an email or, draft a quick document.
It removes the drudgery, but you are still doing the main work.
Right. You are the pilot, and the AI is just checking the maps for you. It makes existing work faster, but it doesn't change the nature of the work.
Okay, so that's the co-pilot era. We're all pretty familiar with that. What is phase two? Because this seems to be where the real structural shift happens.
Phase two is human agent teams. This is the big leap. The AI isn't just a tool anymore, it becomes a digital colleague. It has actual agency.
Let's define agency here, because in software, that's a heavy word.
In this context, agency means the software can take initiative. You don't tell it what to type, you tell it what to achieve.
Like giving it a goal instead of a prompt.
Exactly. For example, instead of saying, draft an email to these 5 people, you say, create a go-to-market plan for this new product launch.
And it just does it.
The agent goes off, it does the research, it analyzes the competitors, drafts the plan, maybe even sets up the preliminary meetings in your calendar, and then comes back to you with the final result.
So it's not just helping you do the work.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually doing the work. It's acting on your behalf.
It's a difference between a hammer and a carpenter. A hammer doesn't build a house unless you swing it. A carpenter builds the house while you go off and do something else.
I love that analogy. Phase two is about hiring digital carpenters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you get to phase three.
Like Jeff.
Phase three is human-led, agent-operated. This is the really futuristic stuff. Humans set the overarching direction, what the military calls the commander's intent.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, agents run entire business workflows autonomously. They actually trigger each other. The sales agent talks to the inventory agent, who then talks to the shipping agent.
And where are the humans in all this?
The agents only check in with the human when they hit a problem they fundamentally cannot solve. Otherwise, the business just runs.
The report had some incredible real-world examples of this. Like, this isn't just theory anymore. Wells Fargo, for instance, they built an agent for 35,000 of their bankers.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of phase two. Corporate banking is incredibly complex. When a client asks a weird specific question, usually the banker has to say, "Let me call you back."
And then they spend 10 minutes digging through massive PDFs and old policy documents.
Right. But Wells Fargo's agent took that search time from 10 minutes down to 30 seconds.
That is just huge efficiency. That's 35,000 people who just got 10 minutes of their life back over and over again throughout the day.
And look at Dow, the material science company. They deployed a supply chain agent that just sits there 24/7, watching for misapplied fees and streamlining their shipping routes.
Just catching the things humans miss because, well, humans get tired and our eyes glaze over looking at spreadsheets.
Exactly. Then there's Estee Lauder. They have agents consolidating consumer insights instantly, instead of having entire teams of analysts spending weeks sifting through market reports.
And that leads us directly to the structural change. Because if you have agents doing all that heavy lifting, the research, the logistics, the data consolidation...
You don't need the traditional silos anymore.
Right. You don't need the traditional silo departments. Microsoft predicts the death of the org chart. You know, that rigid hierarchy of finance over here, marketing over there, HR in the corner.
And its replacement is what they're calling the work chart.
The work chart. It sounds a bit like consultant speak, I won't lie, but the underlying concept is actually really sticky.
It's structured around jobs to be done rather than permanent job titles. The analogy they use in the report, which is really quite vivid, is a movie production.
I love this analogy. So, think about Hollywood. You don't keep a permanent staff of 500 people sitting around in an office building just waiting for a movie to happen.
Right, that would be incredibly wasteful.
When a project gets greenlit, say, the next Batman movie, you assemble a team specifically for that one project. You get the best lighting crew, the best sound engineers, the actors, the director.
You do the job, you wrap the movie, and then you disband.
Exactly. And the Frontier firm operates the exact same way. You spin up a lean team of humans for a specific goal. You augment them with agents to handle the coding, the logistics, the research.
And then when the project is done, the team dissolves and reforms around the next priority. It's fluid. It's incredibly dynamic.
But I have to ask, this completely changes what it means to be an employee, doesn't it? If I am no longer just the guy who writes the quarterly reports in the marketing department, what am I?
According to the report, you become an agent boss. That is the new role title they are floating.
Agent boss.
Yeah. The shift is explicitly from saying I write documents to saying I create and manage agents.
So literally every employee becomes a manager now. even the very junior ones.
Especially the junior ones. In fact, Microsoft found startups where junior marketers, kids right out of college, are running full-stack global campaigns.
Because they have a team of AI agents doing all the execution.
Exactly. They are punching way, way above their weight class.
That sounds incredibly empowering on one hand, but also kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
You are thrust into management before you've barely learned the actual core job yourself.
It is a massive learning curve. And this introduces a brand new metric that leaders now have to obsess over, which is the human-agent ratio.
The human-agent ratio. Honestly, this sounds like a video game stat. Like, what's your kill-death ratio?
I know, but it is a critical piece of business strategy now. Leaders have to calculate exactly how many agents are needed for a task and how many humans are required to guide them. It's a Goldilocks problem.
Meaning you have to get it just right.
Right. If you have too few agents, you are underutilizing this amazing new resource. You're paying humans to do work a machine should do.
Which means you lose to the competition.
But, and this is the key part, if you have too many agents per human, the human gets completely overwhelmed. They physically cannot verify the work. They burn out trying to supervise a digital army.
Because you do still have to check the work, right? You can't just trust the agent blindly.
Theoretically, yes, you must check the work. But if you have 50 agents generating content or code all day, you physically cannot read it all. You just become a rubber stamp.
So we might see entirely new departments emerging just to handle this balance. The report suggests that IT and HR might actually blend together into something called intelligence resources.
Which makes perfect sense when you think about it. If your workforce is half digital and half human, you need a department that understands both the software licensing and the human psychology. You really can't treat them as separate domains anymore.
Okay, so that is the Microsoft vision. It's efficient, it's fluid, it's high speed, intelligence on tap. The frontier firm.
It is very, very seductive.
It really is. But now, let's pivot. Because Alexander Titus read this exact same report, looked at the exact same data, and said, hold on a minute, you are missing the most important part of the equation.
This is where the deep dive gets really interesting, because Titus doesn't dispute the capacity gap at all. He fully agrees that the current way of working is broken. But he looks at that movie production analogy that Microsoft loves so much, and he points out a massive, very dangerous flaw.
And what is the flaw?
He asks a simple question. Why do movie productions actually work? Is it just because they are fluid and dynamic?
Well, no.
No. It's because Hollywood has spent 100 years building a massive, rigorous governance infrastructure.
Oh, I see. Things like the unions.
Unions, strict safety protocols, insurance requirements, incredibly clear chains of command. If a stunt goes wrong on a movie set, there are thick books of rules about exactly who is responsible.
There is a governance architecture that holds all that fluidity together safely.
Exactly. So Titus argues that the frontier firm model implies that we can have all the fluidity and speed of a movie set, but without any of that mature governance.
We are delegating judgment to machines, but we haven't built the safety rails yet.
We're building a Ferrari engine and dropping it into a go-kart that has no brakes. He calls this the governance gap.
The governance gap.
Yes. And he proposes a concept that I think is absolutely essential. He says, if we are going to have a work chart, we also desperately need an accountability ledger.
I really love that term, the accountability ledger. What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, think of it this way. The work chart tells you who does the work. But the accountability ledger tells you who goes to jail, or at least who gets fired, when the work goes horribly wrong.
That puts a very fine point on it. Because let's play this scenario out for a second. If an agent denies a loan application at a bank because it hallucinated a bad credit score...
Or messes up a critical medical insurance claim.
Exactly. Who's responsible for that? Is it the agent boss? You know, that 25-year-old junior employee who is just managing the bot? Is it the developer who wrote the code 3 years ago? Or is it the CEO?
And if you ask that exact question in most companies today, you just get a blank stare. Nobody knows. And that is the danger.
Titus draws a really chilling parallel here to the Defense Department, doesn't he?
He does. He notes that the military has been dealing with human-machine teaming for a decade now. And they learned a very hard, very bloody lesson.
Which is?
He quotes this principle, velocity without accountability detonates.
Detonates. That is a very strong word to use in response to a corporate tech report.
But it's the reality of autonomous systems. He talks at length about something called automation bias. This is a well-documented psychological phenomenon.
How does that work?
When a system is faster than you, and seemingly smarter than you and presents its answers with absolute confidence, humans just stop checking it.
You mean in the loop just becomes a fiction?
Exactly. You just click approve over and over because, well, the machine is always right until the one day it isn't.
And if you don't have that accountability ledger in place, if you can't name the specific human who owns the downside risk of that failure, Titus says you don't actually have automation.
You have abdication.
Abdication. You are just giving up control and hoping for the best. And sure, that's fine when the stakes are low, like asking an AI to write a poem for a retirement party.
But it is absolutely not fine when the AI is managing a global supply chain or filtering thousands of job applicants.
This connects perfectly to a really surprising data point I saw in the Microsoft report
Yeah.
about the psychology of why we're even using AI in the first place. I thought this was fascinating.
The survey question about choosing AI over human colleagues.
Yes. They asked employees, why do you choose to give a task to an AI instead of a human coworker?
You would naturally expect the answer to be, oh, it's smarter, or it produces better quality work, or it's faster.
But none of those were the top answer. The number one reason at 42% was 24/7 availability.
The machine is just always there.
It's not about quality at all. It is strictly about convenience. It's 2 in the morning, I am stressed about a deadline, and the AI happens to be awake.
And Titus analyzes this not as a productivity win, which is how Microsoft frames it, but as a dangerous dependency. We are choosing the machine simply because it's the path of least resistance.
And that feeds right back into that automation bias we were just talking about.
Exactly. If we prefer the AI because it's always available and it never judges us for asking stupid questions, we are much less likely to aggressively question its output. We want it to be right so we can just go to bed.
The report also breaks down the mindset of workers into two different camps. 52% of people see AI as a command-based tool, like a hammer. You tell it exactly what to do.
But 46% see it as a thought partner, someone you brainstorm with, someone who challenges your thinking.
And Microsoft says we need to upskill the workforce to move everyone over to that thought partner category to be effective agent bosses. They actively want us to treat the AI like a human colleague.
But this is where Titus pushes back hardest. He would argue that treating an AI as a partner without clearly defined rules of engagement is exactly how you end up with that massive accountability vacuum.
Because real partners share responsibility.
Yeah.
But an AI cannot share responsibility.
Precisely. An AI cannot be held liable in a court of law. It cannot feel remorse. It cannot be punished or fired.
If you treat it as a partner, you might psychologically start to feel like the risk of the project is shared between the two of you.
But it isn't. The risk is entirely 100% yours.
So we have these two heavily converging yet conflicting views. On one hand, Microsoft says scale fast. Their actual advice to leaders in the report is literally a 3-step plan.
Step 1, hire digital employees and onboard them like real people. Step 2, set your human agent ratio. And step 3, get to broad scale fast. Move past the pilot programs immediately.
They are looking at market share. They know the frontier firms are winning the economic game, so they are telling everyone run as fast as you can.
And then there is Titus standing on the tracks waving a giant red flag saying, do not scale until you have the rules written down.
He argues that governance must be designed before deployment. You don't launch a fleet of autonomous cars onto the highway and then decide what the traffic laws should be.
But let's be real, in the corporate world, speed usually wins out, doesn't it? If you wait around to build a perfect accountability ledger, don't you risk just getting left entirely behind by the competition?
That is the tension. That right there is the fundamental conflict of the next 5 years of business.
The firms that survive might be the ones that move fast, sure. But the institutions that endure over the long haul, the ones that don't suffer a catastrophic brand-destroying collapse because their agents went rogue.
Those will be the ones that solve the accountability problem, not just the productivity problem.
It's about moving from the org chart to the work chart, but ensuring we don't lose the moral and legal compass along the way.
Very well put. And remember earlier, the Microsoft report mentioned that new Intelligence Resources Department, that blend of IT and HR.
Right.
That department's real job might not just be managing software licenses or hiring people. Its real job might end up being managing this massive liability.
They are essentially the new internal affairs for the digital workforce.
So let's bring this all down to you, the listener, because this isn't just theory for CEOs. If you are sitting at your desk right now, maybe you are already using these agents to draft your emails.
Or maybe you're managing a team that's just starting to experiment with them.
You need to ask yourself the really hard question that Titus poses here. Look at the work your AI assistant is doing for you today.
If it makes a massive mistake, if it hallucinates a key fact in a financial report, if it sends the wrong proprietary data to a client, if it introduces bias into a hiring decision,
Who actually takes the blame?
is it you?
If you do not know the answer to that question right now, you are operating in a danger zone. You need to establish that accountability ledger for yourself and your team, even if your company hasn't formally done it yet.
Because velocity without accountability detonates. We have to choose which one we value more as we build this new frontier.
That is a very sobering thought. Microsoft tells us the frontier firm is born and the org chart is dying. But if we replace that old chart with the dynamic web of autonomous agents, we have to decide if we are building a brilliant new kind of company or just a highly efficient machine that no one actually knows how to stop.
A lot to think about.
Huge thanks to the sources today, Microsoft's massive work trend index, and Alexander Titus's incredibly sharp critique. There's just so much to chew on here.
Indeed there is. It's a brave new world out there.
Check your own human-agent ratio, everyone, and maybe double-check that critical work your new digital colleague just submitted to you. But I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. If your value is no longer in doing the work, but merely in managing the machine that does the work, what happens to your job when the machine gets good enough to manage itself? We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.